In a small, forgotten town nestled deep within the woods, there was an old amusement park known as Hollow's End. Decades ago, it had been a place of laughter, excitement, and joy. Families would come from all around to ride the rickety roller coasters, play the carnival games, and watch the clowns perform their silly routines. But over time, the park fell into disrepair. The paint peeled from the rides, the lights flickered and died, and the laughter faded into silence. The people stopped coming, and eventually, the gates of Hollow's End were shut for good. But legends persisted. Stories whispered by the townsfolk of strange noises at night, shadows moving behind the rusted fences, and a figure seen wandering the park after dark. Some said it was the ghost of a clown who had died in a tragic accident, others claimed it was something much darker. Whatever the truth, no one dared to go near the park after sundown. That is, until a group of teenagers decided to test their courage. It was late October, and Halloween was just days away. The air was cold and crisp, and a thick fog hung low over the town. The four teens, Jake, Sam, Lisa, and Emily, stood at the entrance to Hollow's End, staring up at the rusted iron gates. They were out for a thrill, looking for something to break the monotony of small-town life. The stories about the killer clown were just that, stories, they told themselves. Besides, no one had actually seen anything for years. "Come on, it'll be fun," Jake said, pushing the gate open with a loud creak. "We'll go in, take some pictures, and get out." "Easy." Lisa hesitated. "I don't know. This place gives me the creeps." Sam scoffed. "Don't be such a baby. It's just an old park. What's the worst that could happen?" Emily, ever the skeptic, rolled her eyes. "Exactly. Let's just do this and get it over with." They stepped through the gates, the fog swirling around their feet as they made their way into the park. The air was thick with the scent of decay and rust, and the eerie silence was broken only by the occasional groan of metal in the wind. The rides loomed over them like skeletal giants, their once bright colors faded and peeling. The carousel, with its broken horses, sat eerily still in the center of the park, and the funhouse mirrors were cracked and clouded with age. As they wandered deeper into the park, they came across the old clown tent. The entrance flaps were torn and faded, but the painted face of a grinning clown still leered down at them from above. Its eyes seemed to follow them as they approached. "Let's check it out," Jake said, pulling out his phone to take a picture. He pushed open the flaps and stepped inside, followed closely by the others. The interior of the tent was dark and musty, the smell of rotting fabric and dust filling the air. Rows of tattered seats lined the edges of the tent, and in the center was a raised platform where the clowns had once performed. Old props lay scattered across the floor, deflated balloons, cracked juggling pins, and rusted unicycles. But the most unsettling thing was the silence. It was as if the entire world had gone still, holding its breath. "Creepy," Sam muttered, shining his flashlight around. "Why would anyone want to come here?" Suddenly, a noise echoed through the tent. It was faint at first, like the sound of a distant chuckle, but it grew louder, more sinister, until it filled the entire space. The teens froze, their eyes wide with fear. "Did you hear that?" Lisa whispered, her voice trembling. "Yeah," Jake said, his voice barely a whisper. "Let's get out of here." But as they turned to leave, the flaps of the tent slammed shut, and the chuckling grew into full-blown laughter, high-pitched and maniacal. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to shift and writhe around them. Then, from the darkness, a figure emerged. It was a clown, but not the kind that brought joy and laughter. This clown was twisted, monstrous. Its once bright costume was now filthy and torn, its colors faded to sickly hues. The white face paint was cracked and peeling, revealing patches of raw, bloody skin beneath. Its eyes were sunken, black pits that seemed to bore into the souls of the teens. And its smile, that smile, was wide and grotesque, with sharp, yellow teeth that gleamed in the dim light. In one hand, the clown held a large, rusted knife, the blade stained with dark, dried blood. In the other, it clutched a bundle of deflated balloons, which dripped with something that looked disturbingly like blood. "Welcome to the show," the clown rasped, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. "I've been waiting for you." Panic set in. The teens bolted for the exit, but the clown moved with unnatural speed, cutting them off with a mad cackle. It swung the knife at Jake, who barely managed to dodge the blow, the blade slicing through the air inches from his face. "Run!" Jake shouted, shoving the others toward the back of the tent. They scrambled through the dark, trying to find another way out, but the clown was relentless. It followed them, its laughter echoing through the tent as it slashed at them with its knife. Sam was the first to stumble, tripping over a pile of old props. The clown was on him in an instant, grabbing him by the ankle and dragging him back. Sam screamed, kicking and thrashing, but it was no use. The clown brought the knife down in a brutal arc, and the blade sank deep into Sam's chest with a sickening crunch. Blood sprayed across the floor, and Sam's screams turned into wet, gurgling gasps as the clown carved into him, its face twisted in a grotesque grin. The others could only watch in horror as the clown tore Sam apart, its hands and knife slick with blood. Then, with a final, savage blow, the clown decapitated him, holding Sam's severed head up like a trophy, the eyes still wide with terror. Jake, Lisa, and Emily ran for their lives, bursting through the back of the tent and into the fog-shrouded park. But the clown was not far behind, its laughter cutting through the silence like a blade. They ran through the park, past the rusted rides and broken attractions, but the fog made it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Every step felt like a stumble in the dark, every breath was ragged and shallow. The clown's laughter echoed all around them, growing louder and more frenzied. Jake led them toward the old funhouse, hoping to lose the clown in the maze of mirrors and tunnels. They burst through the door and into the twisting corridors of the funhouse, their footsteps echoing off the cracked mirrors and warped walls. But the funhouse was a nightmare of its own. The mirrors distorted their reflections, twisting their faces into grotesque caricatures of themselves. The walls seemed to shift and close in, the once colorful paint now faded and peeling, revealing dark stains beneath. The air was thick with dust, and every breath felt suffocating. Jake and Lisa ran ahead, but Emily tripped over a loose floorboard and fell hard, crying out in pain as she clutched her ankle. Lisa turned back to help her, but before she could reach her, the clown appeared from the shadows, its black eyes gleaming with malice. "Going somewhere?" it hissed, raising the knife. With a swift, brutal motion, the clown brought the blade down on Emily's leg, severing it at the knee. She screamed in agony, blood gushing from the wound as she writhed on the ground. The clown watched her with sadistic delight, its twisted grin widening as it brought the knife down again, this time slashing across her stomach, spilling her intestines onto the filthy floor. Lisa screamed, grabbing a broken piece of mirror from the wall and slashing at the clown in a desperate attempt to save her friend. The glass cut deep into the clown's arm, but it didn't seem to care. It grabbed Lisa by the throat, lifting her off the ground with inhuman strength, its grin never wavering. "Such pretty screams," it purred, tightening its grip around her neck. Lisa's face turned red as she struggled to breathe, her vision blurring as the clown slowly squeezed the life out of her. With one final, cruel twist, it snapped her neck with a sickening crack and tossed her lifeless body aside. Jake, who had been hiding behind one of the funhouse walls, watched in horror as his friends were butchered one by one. He knew he had to get out, but the clown was blocking the only exit. He would have to find another way. Silently, he crept through the funhouse, keeping to the shadows, his heart pounding in his chest. He could hear the clown's footsteps echoing through the maze, the sound of its knife scraping against the walls. Every noise sent a jolt of fear through him, but he couldn't stop. He had to survive. Finally, he found a narrow crawlspace beneath one of the broken rides. It was small, barely big enough for him to fit through, but it was his only chance. He squeezed into the space, crawling on his hands and knees through the darkness, trying to stay as quiet as possible. The clown's laughter echoed through.